Okay, so I'm Hollie from Wise Women Gathering, and I'm here on WWG23 Land, and I'm inviting to give us a bit of an introduction. Pat, where are you in the world? What's fresh for you? Who are you? All that stuff. Go.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm on Wanneroo land here. Up in the. I'm actually at work at the moment, Muswellbrook, and I actually live in Denman. But I'm a herbalist, and I have been working as a herbalist now for this place here is 26 years this year, and I did 3 years before there, so 29 years I've been practicing a herbalist. And before that, I was teaching. So I've been teaching with TAFE. And I've been teaching with outreach, and now I teach privately mostly. And I did teach in manufacturing at one stage. And that's why I just love making things, and I love sharing my information. I've always loved to teach. It's my love. And even in the practice here, I'm busy teaching people to get well, and they don't come back. So there you go, I lose my clients.
Yeah.
So like others, so that's great. No, it's really important. I feel that we've lost so much information. And when I actually learnt to be a herbalist back in the 80s. Back there, it was so different to what it is now. I mean, it's just another world now. It's like, you pay $40,000 and you've got to have these university degrees and all sorts of things now. So it's just a different world now. When I did it, it was actually quite basic, and I had to do a lot of other courses and workshops and things since then to get where I am today. But I love learning, and then as soon as I learn something, I think, I've got to share this. I've got to tell everybody about this. That's fabulous. But basically, I started way back in the 80s because my little kids were, had getting sick and things, and someone introduced me to the herbal medicine, a little online, not online back in those days. It was just correspondence. And I did it, and I thought, wow, I love this stuff. I've always been into self-sufficiency, build your own house, milk your own goat, all that sort of thing. I did all those things. But basically, this was just another area, like looking after your own health. And you could do it by picking weeds and things. So I thought that was more exciting because you could use the plants that were around you. So I did that, and I thought, wow, this is a really good course. I'll keep going. And so then I got my diploma of herbal medicine. And then I started, TAFE asked me to teach, and I did. And I thought, well, I can teach people how to make products and how to look after themselves and how to make ointments and creams and syrups and all those sort of things. And that's what I did. And I've been doing it ever since. We've got the place here called Total Health and Education Centre in Muswellbrook, and I live about an hour away at Martindale. We're surrounded by Wallamai National Park, so we're up in the bush, and I love using bush tucker, not bush tucker, but bush medicine as well. And of course the weeds are around us. I've been busy picking clovers this morning. Oh, there's a dog. I've been picking clovers this morning, and I picked nettles the other day. And it's just lovely at the moment. It's just everything's starting to come back again as it cools down. So lots of things to pick and do. And I love it, going along and going to women's gatherings and things. So that's great too.
And so what you just heard, everyone, is that Pat is probably right. She is the original gangster of this kind of scene, and just that amazing wealth of collected knowledge that you haven't just got from one place. You've had to, you're still collecting as you go. You didn't talk about, she's also the author of about 1,000 awesome books. Yes. Tell us about your books.
Okay,
the kind of things that you publish about.
All right. Well, first of all, look, I've even grabbed them. So the first one I did was this one. And actually on the back is where that comes from. It was A to Z of ailments. I called all my books In Touch with the Earth because I felt people were getting away from it. So we need to get back in touch with the earth. So I called all my books that series. And the first one was the A to Z of ailments. And then the second one was, oh no, not the onion poultice again. And then I put them together. I want to get people back to poulticing and compresses, all those things that we should know. We should know how to look after ourselves, so that when something happens, you're not thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Ring up, or get to the doctors or get to the pharmacy. You think, no, I can draw this out with a potato poultice, or I can help that earache with an onion. So I wrote this. And the reason I actually wrote in the beginning was because TAFE told me, stop giving the students papers and write a book instead. So I thought, oh, okay. So I started doing that. And the next one that I wrote, because we needed one with with the recipes. So that was the next one we wrote with my younger days, you know. So,
No
and
difference.
then I wrote medicinal herbs for home use, and then I wrote I did do a bush one. My husband has looked much more bushy than I is, so he's on the front and the back, you know. Pretending he can light a fire from a couple of sticks, you know. But basically that was the bushwise one because I love bush medicine and that sort of thing as well. We did do a DVD in the middle of that as well, and then more recipes. And that was the last, because people said, look, Pat, you've got too many recipes, you're not giving more to us. So I did this, but it's got a lot more things in it, like ways of eating and cooking. And then I wanted to have more information for weeds. And so I finally got one printed. So this one is not one I've done myself. This is, well, I wrote it all, thinking they were going to chop it up and do heaps of things for me, and they did bugger all. So I actually got that printed with New Holland Press, and that's the last one that I've actually done. People say, when are you going to do more? But that's enough for now.
That's
So
a
that's got
legacy
100
right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's got over 100 weeds in it and over 300 pictures in it. Identification. You must have identification for weeds. That's really important.
And I find that with your stuff, like you, not only the photos, but the way that you describe them is just really sensible. Like it's really straightforward. It's very easy to identify from just even your descriptions a lot of the time.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's what I'm after, something that's really easy to understand rather than something that's complicated and it's got, you know, all these fancy names. I try to keep it as simple as I can so that I understand it too. Oh, excuse me.
So you remember what you've said.
So I just have to shut that off. Sorry about that.
That's right. We didn't even hear it.
Oh, good. That's good. So basically, I've also make my own products, and I've been making the products and been teaching students to. Oh, sorry, it didn't go off. Sorry, can I just tell this person?
Someone's ringing you to tell you you're on the internet right now.
Peter, I have to ring you back, mate. I'm just on a Zoom meeting, okay? Sorry, I forgot to switch the phone off.
That's fine. No sorries. We are all just working this out as we go.
Yeah. So basically, I make my own products. I make my own medicinal creams and cosmetic creams and syrups and teas and capsules and all those other bits and pieces. And the reason I've actually done them, I actually put them on website, but I don't say what they're for because that's TGA. TGA tells you you're not allowed to do that sort of thing. So basically, I make them for my own clients, but my own students as well. And when people run out, then therefore they can get some more and that sort of thing. So that makes it very easy for them.
Pat, are you still doing all of this yourself? Or because I know you got a bit of a team at your centre.
Well, I've actually got a herbalist now that comes a lot, like she's with me as well. So she does some of the days here, and she's actually been helping making the creams, which is really good. It's been saving me a bit. And I make all the medicinal ointments and things myself and the syrups and things, but she's helping me with the creams. And the receptionist and the juniors actually bottle them, and that's the big job, bottling and labelling. So we make the bulk stuff and then they put them into containers, and that does save a lot of work. Otherwise you just wouldn't be able to scratch your head, you know. It takes a lot just to go out and collect the things. I sometimes, for instance, there's a herb called sticky hotbush. I have to climb up all the hills to go and get. So that'll take me 4 or 5 hours, so it's just, it's all those little things that sort of add up a bit, but I love doing that sort of thing. So that's one area I want to keep going, that I'm collecting. And
collecting.
I'd like to know where they come from. I like to know the quality. It's a big thing to know your quality and be sure about where you're getting things from.
So all the products that you make are coming out of things that you're collecting or foraging yourself?
Mostly, but I can't say that I grow enough chamomile, so I buy chamomile in, it's little things like that. I grow my own calendulas, grow my own comfrey, but there is some things that I just can't. For instance, there's a cream that's got coca-cola in it. Well, I just can't grow enough coca-cola, so I do buy in for things like that, but I do buy it from very good sources. If I'm going to buy tinctures, I'll make sure those tinctures are coming from very good sources, and the teas are coming from good sources too. You just do your best. That's what you can do in this sort of industry.
Absolutely. And it speaks to things that we've discussed before over the years around our panels and things about the whole manufacturing and ethical process, but also then putting money in the hands of people who are doing good in the world, right? And so anyone that's looking for a good business model, like all the herbalists say, we want more ethical herbs to put into our things. So that's, you can do that in your backyard. You don't have to be a big setup to do that, right? Or you could be foraging on your own landscape.
So that's one of the reasons I actually teach about weeds, because there's no excuse that someone can't just go straight out there, go for a drive or something, find a nice place that, it's not poisoned or anything, and something up the scrub, and just go and collect yourself some nettles or some chickweed or whatever, and get things growing in your own backyard, like you say. And if you haven't got a backyard, then there's certainly places you can go. So I actually travel around to get some of my herbs. I don't grow St. John's wort at my place. I have to go and collect it elsewhere. But you seem to know it, so it's a brilliant herb. So it's it's
considered a weed around here where I live.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
It was all once called a noxious weed. You want to learn to grow it. I think they've got some other term now that they give it, but some of us, we really know the value of this herb, and I make lovely oils out of it and things like that, like the infused oils, and they're just so useful. They stop the pain and help with the nervous system, and the everyone thinks it for depression, but it's far beyond depression. It's just good for the nervous system. So it's a beautiful herb, and we grow it in our own country, and yet we import it. And how good is the stuff that we import? Some of the herbal teas, you got to be careful. I remember trying to get some Siberian ginseng one time. It was just rubbish. Didn't have any taste, nothing. And they said, oh, well, that's the best source we can get it from, somewhere in India or something. And I said, well, it's just not good enough. I won't make anything with it because it's just not worth it. So you've got to know your stuff. And that's why I often just go to the tinctures or something, because the tinctures coming from ethical places, like MediHerb or
Herbal Extract Company,
Herbal
they're a partner.
Definitely Herbal Extract, very good. I always get my comp free from them. So yes, all those good ethical places. I went to Herbal Extract, their place, manufacturing plant. It's just amazing what the work that they do to make sure that they're getting the correct herbs and there's no adulteration or anything. It's wonderful. And so you're getting good quality stuff. We're lucky in Australia. We've got some good places like that.
Yes. This is great, Pat. I know you could speak about that sort of like collecting and foraging all day. Let's just tune in to a bit more about Wise Women Gathering. So you've been a keynote at the conference, yeah?
I don't know how many years ago that was, a few years ago.
It was a while ago. I think it was even before I took over. So it was one of those first years. And then, every year you show up with your market stall, which has all of those amazing products that you just talked about. So good. I buy all my immune boosting stuff there every year. That sets me up for the next year.
I better bring plenty of that this year.
And I wonder, what is it about the conference, and what made you keep coming back after that first year where you were the keynote?
It was really not, I didn't know this existed before she rang me up and asked me if I'd be a keynote speaker. And I thought, oh, wow, this is pretty special. A gathering of like-minded people, and that's a lot. When you're in the rural areas, you don't get a lot of other people that do the same thing as you. And so it's really nice when you go to a place where there's all these like-minded people. It's laid back, it's friendly, it's lovely. You get the dancing and the drumming and the circles and the talks and all those bits and pieces. It just there's a lot of bits and pieces that make Wise Women Gathering. Someone just asked me, couldn't you just do a day and we can go there for a day? But it's a place where we get together and we become a little family. I love even climbing up the mountain and going and seeing the castle, or the bits of the castle that's up there. So there's just so many bits and pieces, and it's just lovely people that go there. The food is gorgeous too, always fantastic food, and so tries to be so healthy and all that sort of thing too, which is, I think, is really plus that they do. So those great big tents and things like that. I know you've got massive overheads. It's just an amazing thing that's all set up for everybody, so we can get the best, and yoga in the morning, all those great things.
Oh, that's great feedback. Yeah, that is part of the model, is like we don't do one-day tickets because we want everybody to kind of arrive together and spend that time and really nourish, yeah, on all those elements that you said, and then be leaving together because yeah, that's part of what builds it as it is. And I think sometimes it's tricky if you haven't been before to not understand, like, oh, why can't I just do a day, or why can't I arrive late, or but once you've been once, I think it's like many things, right? You can say once you're there, once you've tried it, then you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, you've got to
And that's
do it
how the
first.
model is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So before I didn't introduce my little friend Sigva here because she was on the floor. This is Sigva. She's a 9-week-old puppy. She is chaos, chaos embodied. So she's in a good zone right now, but I'm sure she's going to hit that toddler zone again soon and need another sleep. That's when she'll start biting me and being crazy. So I'm managing that along with everything else this weekend. Now, this year, Pat, your presentation that you're planning to do this year, I personally think is the most exciting and useful session of the whole conference. That's a pretty big claim, I know.
Oh, whoa.
Maybe other people would disagree. And it's called Creating Products from Weeds, or from the weeds and natives around us, creating products from the weeds and natives around us. Now, the reason I say I think it's the most important thing is all the things we just talked about, knowing how to collect your own, forage your own pieces, knowing that they are actual just weeds and natives that are everywhere. You don't have to plant them. You don't have to go into someone else's backyard. This is like really grassroots wisdom that anyone can use immediately. So that's why I think it's the most important piece. The most exciting session. Let's say it like that. It's the most exciting and useful session. Maybe not the most important.
Or useful.
Everything's important. Yeah, definitely the most useful. And obviously your work sits in, we've got 4 streams. You sit in the herbal wisdom, plant wisdom stream, but obviously there's the holistic conscious living, which all of your work goes into. And also I think about cultivating community, because you're looking at the world through cultivating a broader community of all of our relations, right? Those plants, those forests, those going that extra sort of piece. It's outside of the clinic, it's outside of the brown bottle, and like cultivating a connection and relationship with things that are outside of human experience. So that's a whole lot of one question. Speak to whatever you want out of that. None of it's actually even a question. It's just some statements.
Well, last year I actually did drawing therapy because I thought, oh, look, there's so many people that, would do these making things and everything. And people came up to me and said, Pat, you need to do that one that the one making products and things like that. And I thought, oh, well, but I'll go back and do that again. So because I love this session, it's one of my favorite workshops that I can actually show people. I bring along a lot of plants with me. First of all, we go out and we have a little look what's around. There's not a lot around, but there's enough to sort of people get a bit of taste for it, because when you see something growing, that's a very different thing to just me bringing something along or showing you in a book or something. So I try and do a little bit of that, but you got limited time. So we go back and then we chop up I show you all these different weeds that I bring along and some natives. I'm looking at finding a few little natives around. When I say a native, I'll bring something that's really common, like nettles and I'm not going to go up the bush and nick some native plant that doesn't grow very much, so I'll make sure there's plenty of it, whatever I bring along. But there are some very useful natives that we can use as well, which is really good. I did have one year, I had a lovely person that came with me called Tash, and she's Indigenous, and she was really good and she added to it, but she's got other commitments at the moment, so sadly she can't come along. But basically it's really good because we can, like you said, Holly, we can connect with these plants, and I think it's really important. Like when you're collecting your weeds and things, you always leave a third, this sort of thing. You always find where the best place is. Like for instance, I picked a whole pile of clivers this morning, and it's just growing so beautiful and lush at the moment. It's just coming up, and you can really see the goodness of this plant, and the young nettles and things. It's just a lovely time to pick these sort of things. I juice nettles, and I put them a lot in my hair conditioner and things like that. So there's lots of things that I use these things for. Clivers is more to do with, I do juice that as well, but I also dry it and use it in in my teas, and also in my tonic tea, and also in capsules and things. So there's lots of things you can do once you get to know the plants that you can use. And you can actually, you can just chop up nettles and pour vinegar over the top of it and leave it there and put it on your hair as a wash for the hair, like 10% in water at final rinse for your hair, and that will actually help your hair stay much like it really looks after the roots of the hair. It'll actually strengthen the roots, and it also puts a lot of nutrients into hair and things, so you can do things straight away. So but I do love teaching these sort of things, because, and I think that we all need to know these things. It's sort of important, like not just give it to somebody else, and even just buying it off somebody else. I love doing these workshops with the kids, and a lot of homeschooling kids I work with as well. And we made this, we go around the garden, the kids all pick all this stuff, like you say, this is useful and this is useful. And so they pick all this stuff, and you should see how much we end up in the hair. And I just go through it, make sure there's not too many weeds in there. But we don't want weeds, only plant out of place. And then we chop it all up in a group, and then we throw it into the saucepan. There's this massive stuff. And we boil it all up. And then we, after we boil it, we filter, we put beeswax with it, we thicken it, and we make it into a little ointment they take home. And one of the people that we were with not long ago was saying he had a very bad skin problem, and he couldn't fix it with anything. And he tried his calendula ointment that he bought off, the health food shop or whatever, and it wouldn't work. But as soon as he used the ointment that we'd made with all those bits and pieces from his garden, it fixed it straight away. Like it's fresh. It makes a big difference when you make something that's fresh and still has all that goodness in it, rather than getting something that's like a lot of people buy. They buy it like by tinctures, or they buy a dried herb or something. It's just not the same. A lot of the ointments, especially this ointment that I'm going to make at Wise Women Gathering, is mostly fresh, and you've got to use the fresh. There's something about that quality of the fresh plant that goes into the ointment that's really, really powerful. And I think that's really works in a really nice quality ointments. I know I've made a hemp ointment recently, which we use for eczemas and things. And it's got the beautiful, fresh, gorgeous calendula, and it's so lovely when it's lovely and yellow. And when I used to dry the stuff, I think, because I have to dry some, I have it all year round, it's just not the same. It's just, you just love using this potent one. Remember, there's another herb called blackberry nightshade. And with blackberry nightshade, I actually ran out one time, so I used it dried, and the people come back to me and said it was useless. And that was just dried compared to fresh. So as soon as we made it fresh again, fine, got rid of the cold sores again. So, like people can tell. So it's really good to be able to do these sort of things. But I really encourage everybody, get your hands, get yourself back in touch with the earth,
So good. Oh, I've got about 15 different questions that have just come out of what you said. Firstly, I want to say I love hearing that it's okay to make things from the fresh herb, because I think a lot of the time we see recipes for dried herb because that's how people can access the herb. But for me, I'm an awesome grower, but I'm a rubbish harvester, because I just let things die on the vine. I just I enjoy the process of the beginning of the gardening, but I need someone else to do the other end of it. So if I had to pick the thing, dry the thing, then make it into something, that's not going to happen. There's too many steps there, right? But if I can pick the thing and make it straight away, that's gold. So that's very good news. And then I was thinking wow, so some things you are drying, you must have some epic setup for drying. Tell us about how you dry your herbs. Do you have a special machine? Do you have a outside system? Okay.
It's pretty basic. So I've actually got wire doors, screens. And so therefore, I always lay my herbs really thin on the screen doors or the screen windows. And so the air comes from the bottom and the top, and I have got a greenhouse sort of set up, and I just dry the herbs in there. You do have to make sure that there's no direct sun on herbs, especially. You can do it on roots. You can do the roots and seeds outside in the sun, but you can't do it with leaf. You'll lose a colour. So you always do it with so I have a shade cloth over the top of the roof, so you don't get the direct sunlight. And so that really dries them very well. I've actually only just recently set up a proper greenhouse, whereas before we just had a thing that we put together ourselves, with plastic all over and all the rest of it. So, and I also have something I use a lot of, and I don't know where I got it from in the beginning. I think Sweden or somewhere. It's a wooden thing with it, and it's got like dryers on top, and the heat comes up from the bottom and dries all this. So they're just on wire. Wooden slats sort of thing with a lid over the top of it. So there's all sorts of things you can do. Them. The main thing is always to dry things out of the sunlight when it's leaf or flower, and you can dry root and seed out in the sunshine. You should try and dry within a few days, which is easy enough in summer, terribly hard when it starts to get cool. So when it starts getting cool and there's a lot of moisture around, we dry it over the slow combustion stove. So we have things over the top of the slow combustion stove that we dry with. I don't mind me, I've got to have a drink of water. And that's the way we dry and just leave it on all up overnight, a couple of layers. And then, like at the moment, we're drying goldenrod. We grow lots of lovely goldenrod, which is known as a weed in some areas, but we actually grow it and look after it. And beautiful plant lovely for hay fever and all sort of congestion in the head and that sort of thing, but also urinary troubles. But anyway, we're drying it over the top of the fire because it's just a bit moist at the moment, so that there's not enough heat in the sun. So, and it's drying quite well, so we're getting a good lot that way. So, and we're juicing some as well, so we got that and we preserve that as our tincture. I just love, there's just some energy about fresh stuff. It's just beautiful. But sometimes, you want a cup of tea, you got to dry it for a cup of tea. So, but if you can get it from fresh stock and you know where it's coming from, well, then you know it's good. And there's a colour difference, it's bright and it's green or it's vivid. Whenever you see teas and they've got this lanky look, so they just lost their colour and everything, they're probably rubbish, and so they're probably not going to do much good at all. So
you're not getting any actual compound use whatever out of it anyway. Yeah,
that's right. Did that answer that question?
Yeah, that's a great answer. And what I heard you not say is I use some sort of electrical device. So you're using like really simple products that anyone else could make at home. You don't need the fancy preservation system that does all the drying and stuff.
No, and I used to dry garlic. One of the ways I used to dry garlic, I get a sheet of glass and I oil it, because this can be dried in the summer months, so that's easy. And then I mush up all the garlic and I put it all over the glass, and you sort of got to cover it in a little bit of screen to make sure no bugs. But as soon as it heats up and it dries off the top, you're pretty right. And that's how I dried all my garlic. I do have a dehydrator at work. I only use it for emergencies. Like I use it if it's been really wet and the girls are saying, hey, we got none less left, quick, dry some instantly. So it dries very fast. And when you're drying things yourself, they take days to dry, which is actually holds in the nutrients a bit better. So that's why you don't throw things in microwaves. I used to have people who used to tell me, she said, oh, always dry my herbs in microwaves. I thought, oh, no, not microwave. And one time she was doing peppermint. I said, let's compare the flavour, the ones I dry and the ones you dry. How's it taste?
Of course.
Pretty, lovely green, very, very, very nice looking. But yeah, absolutely nothing left in them. So, you got to make those choices. But certainly a lot of people do have a lot of dehydrators and just want to dehydrate, a bit of garlic or something. Well, do what you can. It's good that you're doing it yourself. That's the main thing.
I spent this summer, I actually did harvest a few things this year. And so at the moment where you see me, I'm actually in a school bus. This is my office. And so it goes that way. So the end of the bus is there and the driver's seat's behind me. There's a shelf behind. But behind that shelf, there's a door. And so the driver's kind of cavity is all sort of built in on its own. And so I put up a heap of racks in there, and it's been just the best place to dry. I was mostly drying for ceremony kind of stuff, flowers and things that we'll use in ceremony. But yeah, that was like a breakthrough when I realized that I could just do it in there.
Well, a lot of people want to dry them in bunches, but with the bunches, it gets the moisture stays up in that centre area. So you're always better off making it nice and thin, because it'll just take so long to dry otherwise. Yeah. So it looks pretty, all these bunches hanging around, but you're going to have a very dry area or put them over the fire or something. But I always do thin to make sure I can dry it as quickly as possible. So that's important. And you can dry up beautiful flowers. And I think old cars are the best place, stick in the car.
Yeah, well, that was what else I was doing for weaving products. I just put the seats down in the car and left them in the car.
Yeah, that worked really well. No direct sunlight. That's what you got to watch sometimes. Direct sunlight come through the windows. You got to make sure that's not there.
Look at this amazing sharing. I love this. We were talking about crossing into those other streams, the cultivating community and the holistic living. Obviously, holistic living is a piece. What have you noticed coming into Wise Women Gathering and the community, and how is it different from maybe, I don't know, maybe like professional conferences that you go to or like other spaces?
Oh yeah, I do go to professional conferences and I do a lot of Zoom meetings and things like that. I just don't feel as comfortable with them. The people, they're nice people. There's some lovely people that go to these sort of things, but it's just not the same. I just like grassroots stuff. I've always liked grassroots stuff. Down to earth people walk around with bare feet. Like it's great. Like it's just. I just feel more comfortable with it and easier to talk to these sort of people. They're more laid back. The conference is always very stilted, and you just talk about specific things. I just come back from MediHerb one, actually. It was quite good, but it's you stay at the Marriott Hotel and all that sort of thing, which is very fancy, but there's not even any air, like you can't even open the window. But the breakfast was amazing. I love breakfast. So they got their pluses, but it was interesting because we listened to the latest research and things, but it's just a different level. Wise Women Gathering is a down to earth level. It's getting back in touch with the person that you are, the soul that you are, and I think that's just so different, so I like it anyway.
Yeah. Because I don't actually even really understand in my mind where Muswellbrook is on a map. Like it's just like this.
Newcastle, do you know
Okay.
Newcastle?
Oh, well, vaguely, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it's a couple of hours west of Newcastle,
Northwest.
southwest
Okay.
of Newcastle.
Southwest. Southwest, northwest.
Yeah, southwest.
Southwest.
So yeah,
Okay.
you go. Sorry. Oh, on Newcastle, I'm going the wrong way. North and then west. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right, northwest. Yes. Okay. So that's helpful. But so because I didn't know where it was and also don't know I mean, I live in a very small rural town too. And so I imagine that Muswellbrook is like this happening cool place because the only person I know from there is Pat Collins, right?
Yeah, no,
And
we're a mining town. This is a massive mining area. And
wow.
often people say to me, Pat, with your basic stuff and all the rest of it, how come you're there? You're not going to other places. Look, there's heaps of people at North Coast and Wollongabimby and all the rest of it. But we need people in these areas, and it's really important. I was born in Denman. My husband was born in Muswellbrook. This used to be a very nice little upper hunter area with lots of farms and all sorts of things. But, it's a massive mining area now. So there's lots of mines, and Liddell's just closed down. You might have heard of Liddell Power Station. Well, that's nearby. That's just closed down, and they hope they put a big battery bank in there. So, we're hopeful for the future will improve. But I actually live in a property. I have to get away from dirty old Muswellbrook. So I live about, an hour away up top of Martindale, up amongst the trees up there. So, and I love my little sanctuary up there, which is really nice too.
There's something Corinne, there's a message there in the chat. Corinne obviously is from your area. She says, we're super lucky to have you here, Pat.
Thanks, Corinne.
Yeah, it is really, it's special when I think about this a lot around healing women that are working in the healing fields, or not even just women, healing people who are working in those places and walking in those edge places, right? That we don't quite fit into the mainstream, and but we're not like so woo that we're right out there. And how we are kind of placed all over, and we're not really, really close together a lot of the time. And that can be really isolating. There can be times where that's very lonely. Probably when you were starting, I imagine it would have been a little bit like that. Being
Yeah.
the only weird herbalist person in that area. I think many of us can relate to that. And when I was younger, we used to always think, oh, why can't we all just be together? But reality is, if we were all together, then this information and this education wouldn't spread. And so what we need to do is be spread out and have the capacity to come back together in ways that we do, like the conference. Yeah.
Exactly. Now you did right about that. And look, I've taught thousands and thousands of students, and they have in turn taught thousands of students. And I've had thousands of clients over the years too. So, and they in turn will then tell other people. It might be just something little that they remembered. I remember teaching, you teach a whole year these students, and they might remember that, oh, how wonderful calendula ointment was. Well, that's great. At least they remember that. So, but like it's open. I think the big thing that we've got to do is step out of the square as well. And when you learn about weeds or something like that, something that's around you, it's like you've got another world. And it's like people just suddenly the light bulb goes on or something, like, hey, we don't just have to live in this world like this that we're used to doing. So I think it's really good if we can spread out, like you say, but teach and not keep that information for yourself, and look after others, and they in turn will spread that information. I love writing the books, and I'm happy for people to make things out of the books. It's great, so I'm not going to say, oh, don't make my AA crumb, how dare you. That's great. You're making it for yourself and your loved ones. That's great. And if you're going to make it for others, the major thing is, if you do make anything from mine, you can't make any statements. You can't say this is for eczema or for arthritis. You can't do that sort of thing. So TGA rules are very strict about that sort of thing. It's crazy, isn't it? You can buy something on the line, it can say what it's like, but we can't do it here. So it's we've got some strong rules in Australia, but I just wish they were a little bit wider sometimes.
And that's why the grassroots education is important though, right? Because if we're doing the learning about what nettle's good for, what calendula is good for, and then we see the calendula cream, we don't need it to have the label on it because we already know in ourselves what that's about.
Exactly. And then you can give it to your friends and your loved ones, and they can share it, and they have something that they can use for themselves. How good is that? So make some soaps and then share around the soaps and say, hey, there's no junk in these soaps. They're all great. I have some caustic soda in it, but anyway, so all the rest is pretty good. So that's great.
Can you think of a story or a case, Pat, where you felt like, the person that came to you as your what do you call them? Clients, patients? Clients, yeah. Your client came and you were sort of like, oh, I don't know what to do with this one. And you had to sort of do a bit more of a journey into whatever to work it out.
That is not uncommon, okay, that a person can come along, especially with an unknown skin problem. For instance, they've been to all the doctors and they've been to the thing, and they don't know where it's coming from, and you've really got to dig. I do use iridology. I like iridology. I just feel that by looking, like for instance, I had a lady today, she came with an unknown skin problem. It was one of the ones that was on her face, and she didn't know where it come from. She hadn't changed her food. She hadn't done any different washing. There was no reason she could see that that it was. And it wasn't until we did iridology that we really understood what went on, and that opened up things, because straight away we could see the adrenals were under a lot of work. We could see that she could stress rings. We could see the liver and the gut. So we worked it in the end. She was just pushing herself so hard. She was studying, she had kids, she had a full-time job, she had done a farm, all the rest of it. And sometimes the body just says that's enough, and out it comes in the skin. So, then you've got to deal with that sort of thing. So, yes, I do iridology. I don't tend to do main tests, where people send away tests and things. I don't tend to do that so much. I do bush flower remedies. To try and find out emotional stuff, because often things are emotional. That's where the problems stem from. And I do some drawing therapy, especially with children, because I'm trying to understand them better. But and of course, you work out the diet and all the rest of it. And often if you can talk to the person long enough, this is why it's beautiful having an hour session with someone. If you talk to someone long enough, they eventually will start saying what the answers are, like you just got to listen, and you think, yeah, listen to that, you didn't tell me, oh no, I forgot about that. Oh no, you should tell me that you were taking that medication or whatever. I had a lady come one time, she was a real, she had a lot of trouble shaking. That's right, she was shaking, and she didn't have Parkinson's or anything. And we were going through all this stuff, and eventually she told me she was on this really strong heart meditation. Well, of course, that was the problem. The side effect of heart medication was why she was shaking, So, you forget some people, you've really got to dig sometimes to get people. They just take these things, they just get used to them and they forget to tell you things. Yeah.
It's almost like people are not used to putting themselves first or thinking about
Yeah. That's a lot with
their own
mothers.
maintenance. Yeah.
Big thing with mothers, yeah. You've got to really, they often come and say, this is the first time I spent time on me, So, wow, it's pretty special.
Mm. You're a member of Estuary Learning, and Estuary Learning, of course, is one of our partners for Wise Women Gathering. Actually, I have a great photo that I showed earlier. I'll show it again when I speak to Nancy, I think tomorrow. This photo of all of the Estuary Learning women that were at the conference last year, and
A
you're
few
in
of
that
us.
photo, and Deanne and Kerry and Liz Conlon, and it's a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
And what I've already done my interview with Nancy, although it hasn't played yet, and I've spoken to a few Estuary people, and of course I was always sort of on the peripheral while you were all setting up, and Estuary had their soft launch at Wise Women Gathering, and so we're very connected in that way. But I would love to hear about, from your perspective, why Estuary Learning is important, and like what place it takes in your world at this point in your
Well,
career.
I joined Estuary Learning. One of the people there invited me to join, and that's how I found out about it when it was just first starting. And they said that they were a grassroots sort of organisation that was trying to, because it's becoming more and more difficult without what we're doing, registration, all those sort of things coming on, and having to go for these university degrees, and it's becoming more and more technical, and we're becoming like pseudo doctors now instead of just the grassroots sort of thing, which a lot of us want to work with. And of course, Nancy is the driving force behind it all. Of course, you would have gathered that when you talked to her. So she's just amazing. Definitely a Dorothy Hall person, but Dorothy Hall, of course, was amazing, and I was really taken up with Dorothy and the work that she did, and all the she was a real way back, and got the herbs going and things. So, and I've joined it, and I've been with it now for, I don't know how long it's been going for, a couple of years or something. I constantly get stuff on my phone with them. They have a very good network. They're always doing things, mentoring. They're doing some different talks and things. I've done a few with them. It's great. It's just a real family sort of thing. And, like you go to Wise Women Gathering and you sort of all get together, and it's really lovely. And it's nice face to face, but Estuary Learning is almost like my thing in between, so that I can keep connected with these lovely people. And it's just, half the time I just read what they've been saying to each other. They're having a chinwag with each other, sort of thing. So, fantastic, someone's birthday, and everyone's wishing everyone a happy birthday and all the rest of it. And someone needs a bit of holding because they've got some sickness or something in the family, so everyone holds them, with their spirituality. So it's just beautiful. And I think it's a really nice thing Nancy's got going.
Yeah, Ugh. So good. I don't even know where to start with that whole thing. There's something of, what we were saying before around the isolation when you're out on your own and you're doing this work either rurally or just in, unusual situations, and things like the Estuary Learning, things like the group chats, the ongoing conversations, the podcasts, all of those pieces just keep us kind of feeling like we're connected, right? Even when we're not physically there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's a piece we're looking at for next, I keep saying next year, for after the conference. We want to really work this year around keeping the connections there, because what we've found over the years is we talk about this Wise Women Gathering community, and it happens during the conference, and there's a bit of a burst after the conference, and then everyone gets back to their lives and it falls away. And then we get to about November, and here's Hollie like trying to lift this giant project back up again. We need to have more flow in between. So everyone will see.
Job, Hollie. Massive job. You do
it. Yes, and there's pieces that are pretty simple these days because we've done it that many times, but it would be really beautiful to keep the networking through the year, and that's something we're going to put a lot more energy into. When I say we, I mean me and my staff, and then the support team for Wise Women Gathering. Yeah, and this is a piece that I find so powerful in you, Pat, that it's not just Pat Collins, it's a staff, you're the the way that your work shows up in the world doesn't just support you, it supports like other people. You know, a friend of mine who's a business coach said to me, businesses are the most important, small businesses are the most important piece, because the leaders of those businesses are, you know, putting food on tables that they'll never eat, putting people in cars that they'll never drive, putting roofs over people's heads that they'll never go inside necessarily. And so I feel really strongly actually about business space and leadership, and particularly women doing that, because often women do it differently than what else is out there in the world. So I'd love to hear a little bit about you as a businesswoman. Like, how's that been? What's like, just whatever you want to say about that.
I think I'm a bit of a hopeless businesswoman in a lot of ways, but because I don't like confrontation and things, so I'm not that sort of business person. But we've had the centre here for now this will be the 26th year, and I've always employed staff, and they're just amazing. You know, I've had some amazing staff, and they're part of what we all are, and the people that would come to the centre would know these people very well. And of course, they're on the end of the line. There's a lot to it when you're running a business. It's not a little simple thing, but I always wanted something so that I just it wasn't just me, it was something beyond me, and other people could come into the business and they would rent rooms and things like that. So we've got a few different people that come here as well. And then, you know, like just putting it out there, it's going really good. I think it's got better. Like, you know, in my early years, I was really, you know, I kept on giving it to someone else because I hate all that bookkeeping and all that sort of stuff, and collecting monies and all those sort of areas. So I kept on giving that to someone else. And I have learned over the years, you've got to keep a certain amount for yourself. You know, you've got to be really, if you're going to have a business, you need to, you need to be in charge of it as well. So it's really important. But a good business, little businesses can be amazing little places, and they can be lovely little families. I look forward to coming to work, and my girls look forward to coming to work, so which is really nice. We often have juniors as well, and my son's an IT fellow that helps on the side. You know, you've got to have all those things nowadays. It's just so much to it. You know, my girls are casual mostly because they all got families as well, and they're working part-time, and so that seems to work in well, because one person works so many days, the other one works so many days, and they balance each other out. So no, I've it's been a learning process, I must say. My husband is a silent partner. He's on
I have one of those.
Yeah, he does. He helps dry the herbs or something. But so but it's mostly me that I run it all. But basically, I just wouldn't be able to do it without the girls. You know, they're just amazing. I'm saying girls, some of them are my age, you know, so we all call each other girls, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so good. And actually, while you were talking, I was emailing some of your girls just then because they're having a bit of a trouble with some admin stuff. So that's the best thing about having staff. You can be on the internet and other people are doing your work for you.
Right.
So what I've been emailing them about, actually, no, I wanted to go back and say, you know, you started that by saying like, oh, I don't think I'm a very good business person because I don't do conflict well. This is the point. Like, women do business differently, and maybe you don't have to do conflict in the way that we've all been shown and seen how to do it, right? There's other things that you're bringing to the business space that are just yeah, that are needed in the world. Let's just say that. But what I was talking to your staff about, of course, was your gift that you're offering. So all of our educators have offered gifts to share with the symposium audience, and the things that will sort of stick around for a little while we'll put on your symposium page. I haven't been able to see the gift because something going on between my software and theirs. So do you know off the top of your head what that gift is?
Yeah, basically what we're offering is 10% off the books. I thought the books would be really good. If people come to the Wise Women Gathering, they can just bring along this code and we can give them 10%. It's 10% off every book. So if you buy all 6 books, you get 10% off every book. So we thought that would be a nice thing to do, and it could be an ongoing thing. So we thought we'd have the offer until the 31st of December. That gives everyone plenty of time. And yeah, so any of the books, and the code is WWG23 -10. So I don't think that's too hard to remember.
Very
So
easy.
Wise Women Gathering -10%. So it's just
Perfect.
WWG-10. Okay. So if you,
That's great.
but if you just ring up and tell us that number, we will automatically give you a 10% off the books. Okay.
Mhm. And I'm assuming that people can buy on your website as well. Is
They
there a
can
way to do
buy on
that?
the website, but we can't work. We've tried to get the code to work for
Uh-huh.
that, but we can't do it on the website. So you will have to ring us at work and just say that I want to have the discount. And
Yep.
so it's quite easy to do it that way. So
Easy. I'll
you
put that in our notes.
can go on the website and order if you want to, and then ring us and say, hey, take 10% off that, and we can do that afterwards. But it'd be better off if you rang. It'll get complicated
A
otherwise.
lot simple. And then you get to speak to the beautiful staff. So
That's
that seems like
right.
a very worthwhile
And they're
project.
lovely ladies. Yeah, that's great.
That's great. All right, Pat, to finish off, why don't you tell us where the best place is for everybody to find you? We've said that your local clinic is in Muswellbrook, which is northwest of Newcastle.
That's right.
And where can they find you online? What are all the webs and
Yeah,
the
well, it's quite
socials?
easy because it's www.patcollins.com.au. So that's an easy website to find. We are on Facebook as well. And we're at 196 Bridge Street, Muswellbrook. And our phone number is 0265411884. Easy to, we're here from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I do have a lot of people sent me emails and things like that too. So the email address is the centre 196. That's the number of the place here, 196 Bridge Street. So it's the centre 196 @hotmail.com.
Excellent. Well, I've just got all of that down. So I will make sure that's in your symposium page. So for everyone that's listening, this recording I will upload tonight when I finish with everybody at 6 o'clock or something tonight. We'll be uploading everything, and then you'll be able to see within the Self-Crafted Life platform Pat's video, and then all of these details that we've just copied down and the information about the coupon as well. Yeah. So wonderful, Pat. I love you so much. I love what you're doing in the world. I can't wait to see you in less than 2 weeks. Everybody else stick around, because when I turn off this recording, we'll be announcing what the coupon codes are for discounted tickets. And straight after that, we're bringing on Linda Schumacher, who is our caterer and venue organizing extraordinaire. And I can see her sitting there in the audience waiting for us. So I'm going to hit stop on the recording. Bye-bye.